episode 98 here of Tech Sales Insights, brought to you by Sales Community and Open Symmetry. Eric, how you doing?
Very good, Randy. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Great to have you. Diana, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we got a twosome here, so definitely should be a great episode. So Eric Brock, who is Chairman and CEO of ONDAS and ONDAS Holdings. We'll hear about some of the other companies as well. And then Diana Shapiro, who is CEO of Dynam.AI, very, very cool company as well. And I've been fortunate enough to have some affiliations and work with both. Full disclosure, ONDAS is a public company. I'm on his board. So hopefully we get the SEC check mark there. Our title topic is automating manual processes, which will be very cool. And we're sponsored by Open Symmetry, who is the sales performance and management sponsor of Sales Community. There's a little write-up on them. But, for those, especially in the tech world, and I guess a lot of non-tech as well these days, we're trying to figure out what's the right compensation system, how do you have the right metrics, what do you do, how do you do it? Lots of tools out there. Open Symmetry is fantastic in helping you figure that out. So by way of background, I first met Diana, I think it was late last year, and has been really good to know, and definitely admire her background. Really interesting going from a longtime CRO into the CEO role, which we'll talk about a little bit. She lives in Southern California around San Diego, and interests besides work are golf and her kids and her husband, which I guess get some time in her busy schedule. Eric, I've known a little bit longer. We're not sure how long, but probably 20-ish years or so. And lots of interest, but maybe we'll talk about Boston sports for sure. And he also lives in the Boston area. So if we jump right into it, I always like to start off with kind of your first job, and if you can, quickly going through your career. You both actually started kind of on the financial services side, which is interesting. Diana, you started at Merrill Lynch originally, and then got into tech. So maybe tell us more.
Sure. So early on, actually before that, I'll trick you up a little bit. I was in the health club industry while I was going to school in college, and really sort of moved out to California from Boston for that industry, but quickly realized I needed a real job. And I was recruited by Merrill Lynch because of my sales background and sales skills, which I can't tell you, being in the health club industry really did help me with that quite a bit. So working for the sports club company, but got into stocks and bonds in the financial industry, became a financial advisor. Found myself more obsessed with my Bloomberg terminals than selling stock of the day to little old ladies. And so I, after about a year, left and got into the analytics side. So was lucky to join the founder of MarketWatch.com and BondEdge, and stayed with that company for the better part of 6 years as executive vice president of sales. Really that was my foray into a really more advanced analytics, looking at duration of portfolios and how prepayment models worked as interest rate curves shifted to help the buy side manage their portfolios. From there, I thought I was going to retire and have kids, which lasted a couple of weeks, and then instead decided to start my own company, Corporate Cost Solutions, which I still own today. It's been over 20 years, helping companies divert waste from landfills. And I was an affiliate of a company called Environmental Waste Solutions. And we saved millions and millions of dollars with these algorithms for determining how full your waste containers are before they get taken away, and rode that for about 14 years as the COO of that company. Thought I was going to retire again, and that lasted a little longer, about a month, and got into the medical device side. These are all just introductions and relationships. I've only put my resume together once in my entire life. And looking at brainwave technologies and how we could potentially use EEG technology to diagnose patients, and then also come up with treatment plans in the mental health industry. So doing some really great things for veterans. I'm still an owner in that company. And that is going through clinical trials right now with Special Operations Command. So super exciting stuff. COVID kind of had me take a step back from active management at that company. And I used the opportunity to go back to school at MIT and take some classes in artificial intelligence and machine learning, because I realized as a C-level executive, I didn't understand. It didn't make sense to me. It was all the buzz all over Wall Street. You see these companies going public and raising huge amounts of money, but I didn't understand it and knew we needed it, knew other CEOs were like me with deer in headlights. So I learned about it, got my certificate, and about a couple of weeks later, got that call from Dynam.AI that they were looking for a CRO. And so I joined the company as Chief Revenue Officer about a year and a half ago, maybe a little less, to really help them take their frontier technology to market and help them with their messaging, positioning, branding, all of that. And I did that for about 3 months before I got that tap again. And they brought me up into the role of CEO. And so that's sort of my career path as of now. So I'm the CEO of Dynam.AI.
Awesome. Great. And we'll be diving into that a little bit more. And Eric, you were also the financial services side a little bit longer and then got into the tech side.
Yeah, I'd say, Randy, I'm probably one of the most unlikely technology executives you know, and I know you know a lot of them. So, in fact,
hi, Gray.
Yeah, I've been doing this now for 5 years, which is amazing. So I guess I can say I'm a veteran, but maybe I'll come back. We'll certainly come back to that. A little bit about me. I did spend most of my career on Wall Street, but before that, I really started as an accountant. So I studied accounting at Boston College. I came out sort of traditionally. I went to one of the, I think it was the Big Six, we called them back then. I think there's only 4 or 3 left. It was Ernst & Young. They had just changed from Ernst & Young and Flintstone. But anyway, I started as an auditor. It was a great experience. I learned a lot about it, all these different industries. But at the same time, I always had this itch to go to Wall Street and an interest, and I didn't quite know how to get there. So I went on to business school. I went to the University of Chicago, and that was the transition. When I got out of Chicago, I worked at Bear Stearns as an investment banker, and I did that for a couple of years. I loved it. It was really exciting. We worked incredibly hard. And it's sort of the New York experience where you can get 5 years of experience in one. So I spent 2 years, and then I had an opportunity to launch an investment company in Boston, a hedge fund. It was global long-short strategy, and that was back in March of 2000 when we launched the firm. It was called a firm called Cloud Capital, CLOUGH. And of course, that was right in time for the collapse of the technology bubble. And so the first couple of years, we were swimming upstream pretty into some headwinds for sure. But we had our eyes open, and we were able to preserve capital for customers. Then we were able to grow in the next upcycle, which was significant. Then 08, 09, we preserved capital again, and then we grew. And so it was a great experience. But I always had this itch to move to what I call the principal side of the table. And in and around 2017, it was for a variety of reasons, it was a good time for me to make a career change. And I made a handful of investments in some small companies, and ONDAS was one of them. And I thought I'd stay in the financial world, and I maybe put an investment fund around the concept that small companies are starved for capital when it comes to Wall Street. Back in the 90s, we had this big growth market, and Wall Street would fund these new emerging technology companies. But the market's become so big, it's complicated. They don't get funding's more difficult. Companies stay private longer. So I wanted to fish where people weren't fishing. And long story short, I made the investment. I saw in ONDAS, I saw some what I think is world-class technology hitting some really large markets we're going to talk about. And I decided to organize an investor group, and they asked me to run it. And here we are.
Awesome. All right. So Diana, maybe tell us more about Dynam.AI. So
Dynam.AI is a niche player in artificial intelligence. In speaking with Gartner, we're a customer of Gartner. I realized that we're playing in a space that's up and coming called decision intelligence, where we break down a decision to the lowest common denominator, and then we put algorithms behind it. So we're able to automate the decision-making processes for companies. And interestingly, the top business priorities for AI at companies starts with automating business processes improving existing products or services, improving competitive differentiation, and it just goes down the line, generating revenue growth, growing into new markets. So these are all the top things that CEOs are looking to use artificial intelligence for, and it just so happens that's really our focus. We just never really had a name or a sector within AI to encompass ourselves with, and so that really is it. And then underlying that, we have a frontier AI technology that we are going through the patenting process on now called context augmented machine learning. And it really takes machine learning to the next level by bringing context into the mix. And context is really first principles, it's behavior, it's buying propensity, what makes someone buy, and really understanding that decision-making process all along the sales process, the business process. It could be the mining process, mining gems. It doesn't matter what that process is. It's bringing outside context into the machine learning process. So that's really our differentiator. That's our claim to fame.
So to imagine there could be use cases across kind of almost every industry or everywhere. Are you trying to kind of segment and focus in any in particular?
Yeah. So given I have that big sales background, I like the idea of getting to wherever the money and demand are, right? So the low-hanging fruit right now, at least what we're finding, is companies that already have a data science department, that are already thinking about artificial intelligence, that have a digital transformation strategy in place. They already understand the benefits of AI. Yeah. And so we sort of leapfrog over those folks that are still in a deer in headlights position. We don't want to have to educate too much. And we're focused on helping accelerate those companies that already get it and just want to get to the next level with AI. So business services, those are like the big 5 consulting companies. Anything that's doing business intelligence software is a huge market area for us. They're looking for ways to increase their advancements in the analytics they deliver to their end customers, and they just don't have the internal expertise to be able to do that. We're a team of physicists. And then the next one is manufacturing and software. So manufacturing, think medical device, test and measure equipment, mining is a big one. Anything where physics could come into play, or more advanced and more complex decision making. Especially when it comes down to the products that they're building or want to deliver. And then thinking about, what are the advanced analytics that customers are asking of companies? So software is a huge one, medical device software, but also medical software, healthcare, digital transformation software is also really big. And then the last one is finance. So it was interesting to me. It kind of it threw me for a little bit of a loop when I was looking for companies that already have a data science department, and found that finance is number 4 or number 3 underneath manufacturing and business services and software. And they've been really looking at predictive analytics for a very long time, but they don't have any advanced tools. They're using these Monte Carlo simulations to forecast where the stock market is going to go based on shifts in interest rates, or based on different environmental factors or macroeconomic factors. And I'm like chomping at the bit to get in there and bring in our frontier technology to help them, just given what we talked about in the beginning, which is my background in finance from long back. So both that sector and the industrial sector, since I used to work in both of those, I can see the writing on the wall for, being able to get in there and help them increase ROI using AI.
That's awesome. And you mentioned the prep session. We're not allowed to talk about it, but you're also finishing up a funding round as well.
Yes, it's true.
You're still private, correct?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. We're a seed stage, late stage seed company, and we have an open round right now. Yes.
Perfect. And what else here? What about from a kind of culture perspective? So and I know you're hiring a fair bit. Kind of what do you share around the culture? Obviously hard being kind of, I'm sure, some remote workers and whatnot.
For me?
Yeah.
So we've got a really unique culture. It's very inclusive. We have an inclusive environment at Dynam. And then really what we're finding is that data scientists and machine learning engineers, they want to have a myriad of different projects that they're working on. And so they're less excited about going and working for a company that does, the same thing, like making dishwashers, and coming into a company like us where we're solving the bigger problems. So we're really solving all these cold cases that have been up on the shelf that companies have been unable to solve, and they just love that challenge. And so we create an environment where it's just exciting to come to work every day. You don't know what project you're going to be handed. And that's that's top of mind, I think, for my employees. At least when I go on Slack, they're all talking about the new project that they just got in their inbox.
Awesome. Really exciting.